Good evening, everyone in Sixerland. This is your brother, the host of the Six for Sixers podcast, Creek Creek. What a game! What a game! What a game! Man, I can't even, that was I can't even believe that one. Great game. We got my brother, Facebook Six for Sixers page loyalist, John Jervey.
Yes, sir.
Basketball extraordinaire in the house, back again to recap the game. Oh man, my brother, that was a great game.
Sweating.
That's what,
Sweating.
man. Oh my goodness. Um, Always like, share, comment, subscribe to the YouTube page if you're watching this on YouTube. If you're watching this live on Facebook, please join in the comments. Any game points you want to make about the game. And let me just recap the game. Hard fought game. The Sixers defeated the Miami Heat 105 to 104 by 1 point. And it was a hard fought game because the Sixers did not play well in the first half. I think at halftime we were down like 13 points, and Miami was playing with much more aggression than we were. They were really playing like they wanted to win. We were not. We made a lot of turnovers. We'll get into all the breakdown of the game because there was a mix of good and then some things that we need to work on. But overall, in the end, like I said on Facebook, Sixer fans can be somewhat impatient. They want to blow out every night. They want to win by 20 points. They don't like being down. They get nervous. And so when we were down in the first half, there was a lot of negative posts, which is typical. That's how Sixer fans are, very passionate. But I always I look at the trends of the year, and the trends of the year was that we are a second half team more so. Now it will give you a heart attack because you want them to come out in the first and second quarter with aggression, but the trend all season for us has been the second half is when we really start to pour on the aggressive nature and to shine. So we did do that in the second half. We really closed that gap in the third quarter. I felt like we'll talk about things Nick Nurse did to help the Sixers to close that gap in the third and ultimately overtake the Heat in the fourth quarter. Great game. I was laughing during the game though, man, because me, you, and Gregory, we did the pregame, and I was like, man, I still have our points here, and a lot of our points, some of them, Nick Nurse might have been listening, and we're gonna get to that, and I'm gonna I'm excited, man. I'm excited. So, um, let me start with the six, but we're gonna probably go past the six tonight. All right. Now you already know. I said beforehand. I said I have to get the first point in because in the pregame, neither of the three of us mentioned this person, this player.
Mhm.
And then I thought about it after we got off the live, and I said, wait a minute. Batum is a really key part of this team. And he doesn't put up a lot of stats, but what he does on the floor is always key. He moves well, he passes well, he makes all the right decisions. And I did not expect that, man. I did not expect Batum to go off like that. I knew I have followed Batum. I won't say his whole career, but I have really watched him closer in when he was in Los Angeles. And even when he was in LA, I was like, man, that guy can really play. He's big, he moves well, he can shoot the three, he's smart. So when we picked him up in that James Harden deal, I was overly excited. I was probably more excited than anybody because I had watched him in LA and what he could do. And particularly in the third and fourth quarter, he just went bananas. Um, Batum ended with 20 points, shooting 60% from the 3-point line. 5 rebounds. But not only those stats, but his defense on Jimmy Butler was stifling. He really and even and Nick Nurse, even in the fourth quarter when Tyler Hero tried to go off, he said, "All right," he changed his assignment. You go on Hero and shut him down. For Batum to be in his 16th year in the league and to be running around like he was doing today on Jimmy Butler, and he was not wavering. I mean, he was on Butler, man, like Butler stole something from his mother. He was not
Fact.
letting go, man, and playing solid defense, not fouling him, not trying to rough him up, but just was on him. And Butler could not do anything. So the first point and really the game ball has to go to Nick Batum for his offense because the offense was not producing. 3-point shooting that we mentioned, I think you mentioned it. That 3-point shooting, we both did. You mentioned Healed, and I mentioned the team wise. 3-point shooting had to be really stellar. It
Mhm.
wasn't team wide, but Batum held it down with his 60% from three. He was the go to guy. And I even take it a step further. We got points, rebound, defense, even just smart plays, inbounding the ball, which is something that a lot of fans take for granted. But because you played, when you have to inbound, it's not easy to inbound, to get the ball inbounds, especially in a pressure situation like that, to make the right pass. And that last pass he made to Lowry after Lowry fell down and he just barely slipped that pass. There's a reason why Nick Nurse has Batum taking the ball out of bounds. And that could have easily been a turnover. The first one they had to call a timeout to get the ball in bounds. And
Mhm.
then they recalibrated, and even the second one didn't look good. But a shout out to Lowry too for falling, but and not crying about a foul or what, but just getting
Mhm.
up, cutting to the basket. That opened up Oubre to get fouled, shoot two free throws. So my first point of the 6 for Sixers tonight and the game ball goes to Nick Batum. Easy. And I know you can probably piggyback on that. You can piggyback on that, or you can go with the next point. Up to you, brother.
Well, I'm gonna say a quick piggyback, then go to the next point. Barn burner for sure. Boys pulled it out though. That's the bottom line. Batum, without his clutch play, this is an L tonight, and we're
Yes.
playing in the play-in for the eighth seed on Friday without a doubt. So shout out to Batum,
Yes.
heady player, not just a game ball, but he propelled us into the playoffs without a doubt.
Man.
You didn't expect that. We're not going to get this every night from him,
No.
but what Shaq always says, and I think Greg talked about it earlier. The others have to step up, and he was part
Yes.
of the others that came to play. So shout out. But I'll go to the second point is something we talked about in the pregame. The pecking order is clearly established. It's
Yeah.
public. We talked
Yeah.
about it, and exactly we said he gave Harris the
Yes.
pass to see where he was at, and then he didn't like what he saw. He didn't like the brick airball three, whatever it was. He grabbed a couple boards. I think somebody on here put he had 10 boards. I seen in the comments. Who was that? That was somebody put in here. He had 10 boards. That
Barrett,
okay.
no,
What was that?
said Stone. Shout
Okay,
out to
yeah,
said Stone. He
okay.
still contributed with 10 rebounds, and that's
Yeah.
true.
Yeah, so he was bored, but as far as like I said, the playoff pecking order, I see what it is, and the fans
Yeah.
see what it is, and I like Nurse's attention to detail. He has a short leash in the playoffs. He's about his business, and now that we have the pecking order established, we just need the others to continue to perform. And Harris is, I like him. We need him to do this thing and to win, but he's officially in the others category, and we need the others to win a chit. But he's there. He's there, Creek. He's there. It's the process, the franchise, and then it's Oubre and Harris and the rest of the others. So others, let's do their part to get us a chip.
And
But I'm
and
glad pecking order is established.
oh man, and
it's
I'm
done.
smiling.
It's
I'm
done.
smiling, man. For those who are watching now. I'm smiling because if you watch the pregame when we went on pregame, and if you didn't, go back and watch it. One of John Jervey's points was that the pecking order has to be established. And you called it. It was almost like Nurse was watching you on the live because you said it's obviously Embiid and Maxey. And then you said you would give Tobias Harris the first half to be that number 3 guy.
Mhm.
However, if you didn't see it after the first half, you would pull him if you were coaching the team and you would go with Kelly Oubre Jr. And that's what you said. And that is exactly what happened. That's why I'm laughing. And I was laughing in the game because at the end, I just hit me because they showed a shot of the bench. And I was like, wait a minute. He's sitting next to, he was like down there with Terquavion Smith and all that. Like,
Yeah.
and I was like, hold on. Harris is not there. He's not in the game. And you called it, man. And that was the right call by Nurse. That could, Nick Nurse is coaching. I guess we can get to that. But I'll piggyback on your point and say that was the right call by Nurse. And it
Mhm.
took a lot of guts
Okay.
because a lot of coaches, and I will even say Doc Rivers was one of those
Yep.
coaches who
Yep.
would go with the same rotation. And I thought Doc was pretty good, but he would go with the same rotation no matter what. Even
No
if
matter.
they weren't producing. And sometimes I guess there's a star power, there's guys that are stars or guys that have been with you all season. You feel a loyalty and allegiance to it. But he pulled him, man. And yes, you called that out in the pregame. The pecking order has been established. Now, here's the question, piggybacking on your number 2 point. What do you do going forward? We're obviously going to be playing the Knicks. Who are your starters now? Do you give Harris another opportunity? And you guys in the comments, please chime in. Do you give Harris that opportunity to start, or do you switch everything up?
He gets the first 2 games against the Knicks to show that he's starting caliber, and Nurse has clearly showed if Batum is hot, he's going to go with Nick and he's going to bring Harris off the bench. I'm going to call it by game 3 when they come back to Philly. If Harris is subpar in the first 2 games, he's going to bring him off the bench.
Oh man.
By game 3, he's going to demote him all the way to the bench and he's going to go with his strongest starting 5, which
Now
is should.
Lance,
But if Harris
Lance,
ain't there, he's going to flip flop him and Batum
Lance says we need Harris against teams like Boston.
for sure.
Do you agree with that?
Absolutely.
I think so too. I mean, it's tough, man, because Harris does play good defense. He rebounded and he started the game really aggressively. That's why I was excited because that was one of my points. Swiss
Yeah.
Army knife. I said he got to show up, and
Mhm.
then he just faded. He ended the game with 9 points. He did have 10 rebounds, 4 assists, but he didn't look aggressive at the end. We really needed a good two-way player.
Mhm.
And Oubre was that guy that can defend and a guy that can score. And really, Batum was that as well. So, was that your point number 2, or would you
Yeah,
just
that's number
piggyback
two.
it?
It's
That was your
about,
point number
about
2.
the
All
playoff
right.
pecking order.
All right. So I'm giving my point number 3, and I know the people not really gonna like this one because I try to stay off Facebook while I'm watching the game because fans they just put everything out there as they're watching because it's emotional and they just post stuff and I don't want to really take in a lot of it, but I did look at the very end of the game at what people were posting, and I'm giving my point number 3 to Joel Embiid. Now I'm gonna say that Joel Embiid did not play a great game. He looked really sluggish. However, I will give Embiid credit for playing 38 minutes tonight on a surgically repaired knee and not really having enough games to really get in the condition that he needed to be in to play in a game like this. The playoffs is just a whole other level, other gear. You can even just see it. I mean, we're fans. We're looking at those guys are not playing the same as they play in the regular season
Mhm.
because it's really win or go home, and they really don't want to go home. They want to keep playing. So I'm giving my third point to Joel Embiid. He ended with 23 points, but I do think that he was tough, man. He toughed it out. And I saw somebody posted about his mental toughness, and that he just doesn't have it. But if you've played in a game, and I've never played in the NBA, but if you've played in any game, I don't care if you played in a high school game, and you get to the fourth quarter and you are winded and you can't really get that lift, then it's tough to battle through that. And I take it another step because I played in a league, and will not mention the name of the league, but I played in a league a few years ago and tore my ACL and my meniscus. And it took me a year to rehab to get back on the floor. A year. And when I came back from that and played in that league the subsequent year, it's tough. It's mentally tough to come back from an injury. Anybody who's ever had an injury of a nature of a meniscus tear or a ACL, you are always thinking every time you jump and land, you are thinking about that time that you uh, tore your meniscus or tore your ACL. It's very mentally tough. I just can't imagine coming back that soon, surgically repaired, and it took me a year to come back. I don't even he's a professional athlete, but he's still human mentally. So it does take mental toughness to play through that situation. It does take mental toughness to play through when you're not physically really in shape to play that on that kind of level. I give a shout out to Embiid for toughing it out through the game. He played 38 minutes, only second behind Maxey, who played 44 minutes. You got to tip your hat to Embiid for hanging in there and finishing the game. So my point three, shout out to Joel Embiid. Yes, could have been a better showing offensively. He didn't have a lot of lift on it and didn't get he did get a lot of rebounds at 15, but I thought he did just wasn't that mobile today, but he was tough. He was tough. What do you think about that?
So I'm gonna throw the question before I get to my next point. I'm gonna ask you. I want to ask some of the loyal 6 for 6 followers. Did he look slug? Hold on for a second. My phone's ringing. Let me get rid of that. Hold on, bro. Hold on for a minute. Ah, there you go. My phone was ringing. People want to call me about the game,
Right.
but did he look sluggish to you and out of shape or injured? You know,
That's great. And I analyzed his movement. To me, and I'm not a doctor, he did not look injured.
okay.
And I will say that again, going back to my basketball career in the local courts, he I've played or attempted to play after rehabbing an injury, and just there's a limp there. I didn't see a real limp. I watched him jump, I watched him run. I did not see him favoring, which is something that I did. Mine was my right knee. I favored my left knee. So when I jumped, came down, favored my left knee, and you could see that. You could see when I ran, I favored my left knee. I didn't see that. I just saw somebody who just had not played in a game situation like that and was just not in shape really. And you really can't expect him to be in game shape. I don't care how much ramping up you do in practice. When you get in that game, the atmosphere is totally different. So I did not think injury or that the meniscus was not um fully repaired, or I didn't think injury. I just thought he was tired. And they were saying that he was grabbing the knee and stuff like that, but I saw him grabbing it at one point with both hands, but I saw more of him just hunched over trying to catch his breath, and then he would just pop up and just play defense or whatever, but I didn't see injury. I saw just tired, but we'll see. He might be still playing through some pain as well.
Okay, because I'll say if he's just sluggish, he'll get in a little bit of a little bit better shape. And this version of Embiid in the Sixers with a more diverse offense, I want to see him incorporate, a few more shots for Buddy. I want Oubre to get more involved. He didn't get enough touches again. So if we get, diversified offense a little bit more, and if Embiid was just sluggish and getting into shape, this is good enough to get us past New York, possibly past the second round, depending on who we play. I don't know how the matchups fall, but
Yeah.
this version would be, can't get us past Boston, but it can get us at least to the Eastern Conference Finals if we can avoid Boston until then. But like I said, time's going to tell how that's going to go. But I'll say the next point is
Mhm.
just the playoff buddy I seen in the second half, which we said, one of our pregame points was that he had to stroke it from three. I don't know what his 3-point percentage was, but he did hit one or two, I think two. And
No, he was he was terrible, man.
what
He
was
was
it from three?
1 for 5 from three.
Okay, I don't know why I thought he hit a second one, but
Nah, he had 1 for 5 for 7 points. He was total 3 for 8.
okay. So in the second half, I like what I saw from
Hmm.
when they chased him off the line.
Yes.
He wasn't good at creating during the season, but he created, a couple lobs for a Reed, and he put the basket on the floor a couple times and got a couple layups. So with a few more touches,
Yeah.
the fact that we seen tonight, my next point, I say that to say not just, the second half playoff buddy, but we seen the players that are unafraid of the moment.
Yes.
And, he goes into that category where he's unafraid. He's prepared to go out there, give it his all. And we have at least a good seven that didn't play as if they were afraid of the moment. And
Yes.
I'm excited about that because sometimes players just come out there and look shell shocked, but we have a core group that's unafraid, and that's key this time of the season. So that's a optimistic point. That's a reason to be encouraged, and we got to just see if they can keep it going on Saturday.
Yes, and I will say that, man, that's being really objective because Heald stats did not look good. Only 7 points, 3 for 8, 1 for 5 from three. But you were right; they put a lot of pressure on him on the
Mhm.
3 point line, and he was driving in, which is not really his skill set. He was driving and dishing. He ended with 6 assists. So he was able to create off of just the threat of him shooting. He did a good job in the second half, and I thought he even defended. He's not a great defender, but he was decent. He wasn't. People weren't just blowing by him.
He was
Um,
solid.
yeah, Dale says Buddy didn't shoot well, but he played well otherwise. He was fearless tonight. And,
Absolutely.
yeah. So that's great. That's great. But that's point number 4. Point number 5 goes to me. And I want you to chime in on this. But point number 5 is I'm going to give to Nick Nurse. I felt that that was one of the matchups that Greg mentioned in the pregame
Mhm.
was Nurse versus Spoelstra.
Mhm.
Spoelstra is a future Hall of Fame coach. Nurse probably will be too. I mean, he has a championship and maybe potentially still coaching, maybe get another one. But Spoelstra is probably by and large seen as the better coach, the more well recognized coach, the more decorated coach.
Mhm.
And Spoelstra is really a genius of a coach. So I thought that in the first half, Nick Nurse got out coached because Spoelstra was throwing this zone, and it was a crazy zone because we played a 1-3-1, 2-3, 3-2, all of those different zones. But what did they call it? A shapeshifter or something? It was like it was taking different forms. It was not just 3-2. I saw 3-2 at time. I don't know. I'm gonna have to look it up exactly what exactly they're playing and how they play it. But it was very aggressive. It was designed to shut down the 3 pointer, which is what it did because we didn't have much of an interior game with Embiid. They had done a great job scouting Embiid's limitations. They knew Embiid was not in the last games that he's been playing since his injury, hasn't been aggressive in the interior. And I thought that in the second half, Nick Nurse really, really made some key decisions. One was pulling Harris. Another key decision that if you've watched all season, he normally doesn't start the third or fourth quarter with Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid usually in the rotation sits about midway through the fourth quarter. He'll come in around the 7 minute mark and then finish the game.
Mhm.
Today he started the fourth quarter, which I was shocked. So I thought that was a key moment because I thought Nick Nurse was attempting to keep that momentum going that they had built up in the third quarter, and he kept the momentum going. I also felt that the team revved up their defense in the second half, and I attribute that to coaching. And then I'm also attributing Nico hit the big shots, but that is also coaching. That Embiid's having an off game. Maxey, by and large, had a really off game, and we need to go to someone else. And setting up Batum for wide open threes was the remedy tonight. Nick Nurse also switched Batum around, a long, lanky defender who can keep up with everybody. He moved him around on the floor to eliminate the threat, any threat Miami posed. When Butler was the threat, Nick Nurse put Batum on Butler to smother him. When Tyler Hero started going off and hitting threes, and he also hit a clutch two down the stretch, he switched them. So I thought it was a masterful job by Nick Nurse, and he coached with a lot of passion. He argues the calls or the non-calls. Sixers were getting beat up. I try not to talk about the referees, but they were getting beat up. It was not
Yeah.
consistent refereeing. So my point goes to Nick Nurse for point number 5 for coaching an extraordinary game against a Hall of Fame coach, Eric Spoelstra. I think he outcoached him tonight.
Absolutely. He made the adjustments. Um, I wish he had them better prepared because we knew what they was going to do. They
Yeah.
start making to throw you off, then they switch to the zone. We all knew it was going to happen. And he didn't have them prepared, it looked like, or they didn't execute, but he made the adjustments in the second half. Outcoached the future Hall of Famer in Spo, and got us in position to, get this dub, which was key. And
But you said something before you go on that's critical. Do you think he needs to prepare better? Because he has been a good adjustment. He has made good adjustments throughout the season, but it has been times where the Sixers have looked unprepared in the beginning of a game.
And this was one of them because it was
Yeah.
unacceptable for them to look befuddled for a whole half
Yeah.
when you got the tape, you knew it was coming,
Yeah.
and they weren't ready for it. So I was disappointed by that. But he got them together at halftime, and whatever they practiced heading into the game, he said, "Let's get back to the game plan," and they executed.
Yeah. I agree. All right, you got point number 6, and then we get on out of here.
All right, so point number 6, I know the 6 for 6 artist gonna get this one. Uh, we keep it a buck on the 6 for 6 podcast. We keep it all the way 100, and we
Yeah.
just don't share the good. We share what they need to do to improve. And without a doubt, we've been talking about it all season long. And I'm gonna see the first person that's gonna type it in. This has been our Achilles heel, one of them, all season, probably the biggest Achilles heel, and it was our Achilles heel tonight. So who on 6 for 6 gonna put it in there before I even share this last point that we just can't get right? And I'm gonna give you a hint for time's sake. Against
Mhm.
a smaller team
Yeah, I
that
already know what it is.
we're bigger than,
Yes,
and
yes.
Achilles heel raised its ugly face
There you
again,
go. There it is.
rebounded Dale
There you
all
go.
over. I'm looking at the offensive rebounds, Dale, and I'm just looking at the ticker. It's going up 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. I'm like, how are we getting pounded on the offensive glass and with a bigger team? What that just tells me, and I'm gonna take this back to Nurse. As much as I'm gonna give Nurse a shout out, either he's not practicing offensive rebounding,
Yeah. Yeah.
he's not holding them accountable
Yeah.
to box out and rebound, and that is disappointing, and
Yeah.
that is going to bite us. We've been saying this from the beginning of the season, and we're still saying the same thing. It's now the playoffs. This is, like you say, it's the playoffs,
Yes.
and we're still not boxing out the guards, the big men, and if the ball doesn't come to us, we don't get it.
Yeah.
And once in a while, we'll go and fight for it. But after we're in a hole like 3-1 from
Yeah.
the offensive rebounding ratio. But from that, disappointing. And if they don't get it right, which let's keep it a buck, they haven't
Yeah.
gotten it right all season long.
Yeah.
Can somebody get in somebody's face and say, we're going to start boxing out and rebounding? It can happen.
Yeah.
But, bro, it's highly unlikely. And this is going to come back and snake. It's going to be a snake bite. We're going to be
Yeah.
snake bit soon. And it's going to cost us a game in a series when
Yes.
the better team also kills us on the offensive glass. So I say that to say I'm highly disappointed in that. They have to get it right. I'm doubtful they will until next season. But
I agree.
we'll go ahead
And
and enjoy
and
the ride
you
while it's going, though.
yeah, I mean, we're not gonna say the see if they would have lost today, I was prepared to get on there and say season's over.
If they
Because
would,
yeah, if they would have
oh,
lost
oh yeah,
today.
oh yeah,
I won't say that now, but I will say this. against Miami Heat, they got a lot of tips, man. A lot of it was sheer, some of it was boxing out, but a lot of it was just hustling. They were
Just
just
hard.
faster to the ball, man. And when the ball went up, they were more aggressive about going and getting it. And they just won it. And if the ball didn't drop right in B's hands or really close to him, he wasn't making that extra effort.
Nope.
But Bam out of bio, that Jaquez and all they're like killer bees, man. They're going after it. And
Even
we
the
have to
guards
get
was
that.
going after it.
Even everybody. And they're not a big team. They're really undersized. But they were going after the ball and they did get a lot of offensive rebounds in the end, second shots, second chances at the basket, and so forth. And I agree with you. When you go deeper into the playoffs, you're playing New York Knicks, when you get up against the Boston Celtics, even the Indiana Pacers, you're gonna have some trouble rebounding that way.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a great point. I will say this too, this is an overtime point, and then we'll roll out. 3-point shooting. Nick Batum really elevated the 3-point percentage for the team, but without his 3-point shots, we're looking at Harris 0 for 3. We're looking at Kyle Lowry 1 for 5. We're looking at Tyrese Maxey 1 for 6. We're looking at Buddy Hield 1 for 5.
What was
That
Oubre?
Oubre was 0 for 1.
Okay.
And I won't kill him for shooting one and missing because that happens. But those guys who shot 5, 6 shots and made 1 out of 6, then that's Maxey. It's not good enough. We
Right.
need Tyrese Maxey, man. We need Tyrese Maxey to do more than he did tonight. He was aggressive, but I don't know if it was just playoff jitters or something, but we need him to do more than that because it's clear that Embiid is not going to be as dominant as he was earlier in the season. I just don't see him getting there this playoffs. I think we need Maxey to show up. We need all those supporting guys to show up. And he said that in pregame. Lisa Salter said, me and Tyrese can't do it alone. And I wish
So
he would not have said that, man, because he said that the last season, but he just said me and James. Remember, it was James Harden. He
yeah,
took Harden's name out and put Maxey's name
but
in there.
Max
Yeah, but don't say that because you
gotta
are
make
it's
excuses. Right.
demeaning to the rest of the team. Like
Uh-huh.
we're the only ones doing anything. Y'all got to step up. We can't do it alone. And I know Greg said in the pregame that that's something that Embiid does to so-called motivate people. But if I was on that team, that would not motivate me. That would be offensive. That every time you feel that you had a bad game or you're not going to have a great game, you get in front of the media and you say, "Oh, me and so and so can't do it by ourselves and think these other guys got to step up." You're implying that we haven't stepped up all season. So I wish Embiid would just stop talking. Just don't say anything.
I
don't
was saying that.
don't say anything. Just
Decline
play.
the interviews.
Just play, man. Just play because always is some comment that makes it just undercuts the team. And I didn't like that. And then saying Oubre is the third best player. Don't say that. Why are you saying that?
Unnecessary.
You don't need to rank them. You're not the coach. That you
Coach do
that
that.
goes on in the back room when the coach shut the door, and the coaches are all there. Then they can say, listen, Toby is not is Oubre is third man up. But we don't need the number one guy critiquing his own guys,
Mm,
not publicly. Now, you want to get Toby in the locker room and say, listen, bro, you got to step. Okay, I'm with that.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
don't get in front of the media and do that. So that's my overtime point, man. You got any other points before we wrap it up?
That's it, man. I'm glad we get, mainly the big guy. The big fella gets some rest
Yeah.
Thursday. And hopefully, no, and Friday. So he gets 2 days of rest.
They had when did they play? Saturday?
Saturday is 6.
Saturday at 6. Okay.
Saturday is 6. So he gets 2 days of rest and he's just not going to be 100%. But if we can at least get this version again, it's important, I believe, that we steal that game one. Knicks to get game two, and we'll see what happens when they come to Philly. But that first one, why Embiid should be as healthy as he is in this series, we got to get that first one in Madison Square Garden. We got to.
Yes. Which man, oh man. All right. I can't we gotta wrap it up because I could go on and on, but I agree with you. We gotta get one, and that first one will be a good punch in the face, that very first game.
Mhm.
So Six for Sixers podcast. Thank you to everybody who support. Thank you to Dale for that compliment there. Appreciate it. And
Thanks, Dale.
everybody else on the Six for Sixers podcast, thank you for all the comments. And we're not going to be able to go live every game, but I'm going to see about the next game. I will be, man, I wish we could have gone to that game. If it was in Philly, I probably would be able to attend that game, but I don't think I'll be able to make it in New York. But anyway, I hope everybody gets some rest tonight. And Six for Sixers podcast. I'm your host, Creek, my co-host, Brother John Jervey. And we will see y'all next game, one way or the next. Go Sixers. Play the song. Great game. And peace out. See y'all on Saturday and see you on the Facebook page. Keep posting. All right. Peace,
Peace.
y'all. Thank you, Brandon.